The sky burned crimson as another Auric warship broke through the atmosphere. Hana pressed her hand against the observation window, watching helplessly as energy beams cut through the last Taiwan city. Buildings that had stood for centuries collapsed in seconds. The ground trembled beneath the research facility, and warning lights flashed across her console. "All defense shields have failed," said a calm voice behind her. Hana turned to see Q, her research partner, his face illuminated by the red emergency lights. Unlike most Taiwans whose blue skin typically shimmered with health, Q looked pale and drawn after 3 days without rest. "How many made it to the southern bunkers?" Hana asked, trying to keep her voice steady. "Less than 4,000, Q replied. The evacuation pods couldn't launch fast enough once the Auric targeted the transport hubs. The floor shook again, harder this time. Dust fell from the ceiling as the facility's structural integrity warning sounded. They had perhaps an hour before this final research outpost would collapse too. "We should join the others," Q said, gently taking Hana's arm. They hurried through the winding corridors, passing other Taiwans who moved with the stunned slowness of people who couldn't process the scale of what was happening. Just 1 week ago, they had been the most advanced civilization in this sector of space. Now they faced extinction. The central chamber had been converted into an emergency command center. Council leader June stood before a large display showing the remaining Taiwan strongholds, just 3 blinking blue dots in a sea of red. "Hana Q good. We need your expertise," June said, his voice hoarse from giving constant orders. "The Auric have given us their final terms." An older Taiwan named Day, once their ambassador to other worlds, shook his head. "They're not terms. They're a death sentence. Show them," June instructed. The main screen flickered, revealing the harsh, angular face of the Auric commander. His gray skin was marked with the ritual scars of his many victories. "Taiwan weaklings," the recorded message began. "Your resistance ends now. You have 48 hours to surrender all technology, resources, and able bodies for labor. Those who resist will be eliminated. Those who comply will serve. This is the mercy of the Auric Empire." The message ended. Silence filled the room. "Can we negotiate?" asked Min, the youngest council member. Day laughed bitterly. "The Auric don't negotiate. They take, they destroy, they enslave. That's all they've ever done." Hana moved to a dust-covered console in the corner of the room. The others continued their desperate discussion, but she had remembered something, a project from the archives from before she was born. "What are you doing?" Q asked, following her. "Looking for hope," she answered, her fingers flying across the interface. "Long ago, our explorers encountered another species. They were primitive then, violent even, but they signed an agreement with us." Q frowned. "Humans? That was over a century ago. We abandoned those talks because they had nothing to offer us." "We signed a defense pact," Hana insisted. "It still exists in our records. Even if it does, how would it help us now? Their ships couldn't reach us for years, even if they wanted." "To help." Hana pulled up the ancient file, scanning it quickly. "There's an emergency beacon protocol. It was never removed from our systems." Another explosion rocked the facility. Larger chunks of ceiling crashed down, narrowly missing the gathered Taiwans. "We have no choice," Hana said. "Every other ally has fallen or fled." Council leader June approached, having overheard their conversation. "The humans? They were barely space-capable when we met them. That was a long time ago," Hana argued. "Who knows what they've become?" June looked around at the desperate faces of the last free Taiwans, then back at the screens showing the approaching Auric fleet. "Do it," he finally said. "Activate the beacon." Hana's hands trembled as she entered the activation sequence. The ancient system hummed to life, sending a signal shooting across the stars, a desperate plea to a species they had once dismissed. Beacon's light pulsed steadily on the console. None of them truly believed help would come. The humans were too far, too weak, too insignificant in the grand scale of the galaxy. But as the walls continued to shake and dust filled the air, that small pulsing light was all they had left. "Now," June said quietly, "we prepare for the end." But the end would come with a surprise that would shake the foundations of the galaxy. The emergency alarm blared through the United Earth Defense Headquarters. causing Admiral Park to look up from her reports. Red lights flashed across the command center as technicians rushed between stations. Something major had happened. "Admiral, you need to see this," said Lieutenant Doe, hurrying over with a data tablet. Admiral Park took the device, her eyes widening as she read the information. "Confirm this," she ordered. "Already triple-checked, ma'am. It's authentic. A distress signal from the Taiwan civilization." The Admiral stared at the pulsing dot on the star map. The Taiwans, a name from history books, not current affairs. Earth had encountered them briefly, during humanity's first ventures beyond their solar system. The Taiwans had been advanced, aloof, and ultimately dismissive of the young human space program. "The signal includes their treaty codes," Lieutenant Doe added, "the defense pact from 150 years ago." Within the hour, Admiral Park stood before the 12 members of the Earth Defense Council in their emergency chamber. The council members' faces showed varying degrees of concern and skepticism. "The Taiwan distress beacon was activated 6 hours ago," Park explained, pointing to the holographic display. "Their message indicates an invasion by a species called the Auric. The Taiwans are on the brink of defeat." Councillor Tay leaned forward. "Admiral, that signal originated from the far edge of mapped space. Even with our best ships, it would take 26 days using conventional drives," Park interrupted. "But Commander Jin has informed me that the 1st Interstellar Marine Division can deploy immediately using the new jump drives." The council chamber filled with murmurs. The jump drive technology was still experimental, promising faster-than-light travel without the usual limitations, but not yet approved for military operations. Commander Jin stepped forward from the shadows at the back of the room. His uniform bore the patches of both test pilot and marine commander. "The jump drives have passed all safety protocols," Jin stated confidently. "My division can reach Taiwan space within 36 hours. "This is madness," exclaimed Councillor Lee, the oldest member present. "We're talking about sending our soldiers halfway across the galaxy for a species that showed us nothing but contempt." Admiral Park stood straighter. "With respect, Councillor, we signed a treaty. The Taiwans may have forgotten us, but Earth honors its commitments." "And if it's a trap?" asked another council member. "Then we will deal with it," Commander Jin answered, simply. "But if it's genuine and we do nothing, we let an entire civilization die when we could have helped." The room fell silent. The council members exchanged glances. "How many ships?" asked Councillor Tay finally. 3 battle cruisers and 6 support vessels," Jin replied. "Enough firepower to make a difference, but not enough to leave Earth defenseless." "Admiral." Park watched the council members carefully. She had served Earth for 30 years and knew what was at stake. Not just Taiwan lives, but humanity's place in the galaxy. This would be their first major intervention in an interstellar conflict. "The jump technology is untested at this distance," warned the science counselor. "There are risks." Commander Jin nodded. "My soldiers understand the risks. We volunteer." After hours of debate, the council chamber quieted as the final vote was tallied. Admiral Park held her breath. "The motion passes," announced the head counselor. "Operation Downfall is approved." Within 12 hours, 9 ships of the Earth fleet hovered at the jump point. Inside the lead vessel, Commander Jin addressed the assembled Marines, their faces serious but determined. "Most of you have only read about the Taiwans in history lessons," he said. "They're strangers to us. But today they're allies in need. We don't know exactly what we'll find when we arrive, only that it will be dangerous." A young soldier raised her hand. "Commander, why are we risking our lives for aliens who didn't think much of us?" Jin smiled slightly. "Because that's who we are. Humans help, even those who dismissed us, even those who forgot us. It's what makes humanity different." As the ships prepared for the experimental jump, Admiral Park watched from Earth Command. The vessels shimmered, then vanished in flashes of blue light. "Good luck," she whispered to the empty space where they had been. "Show the galaxy what humanity stands for." The human fleet burst into Taiwan space in a flash of blue light. On the bridge of the lead ship, Commander Jin steadied himself as the jump drive powered down. Alarms immediately sounded as the ship's sensors detected dozens of hostile vessels. "Report," Jin ordered calmly. "Multiple enemy ships in orbit around the planet," responded the tactical officer. They appear to be bombarding the surface. Energy signatures suggest advanced weapons technology. Jin studied the tactical display. The Auric vessels were larger than Earth's ships, with strange angular designs that reminded him of ancient predatory insects. Any response to our arrival? Nothing yet, Commander. They may be surprised to see us. Jin nodded. That won't last long. Deploy all fighters and prepare main weapons. Target the vessels conducting planetary bombardment first. As orders flew across the command deck, Jin opened a channel to the planet below. This is Commander Jin of the Earth Defense Force. We are responding to your distress signal. Please advise on your situation. For several long moments there was no response. Then a weak signal broke through the static. This is June of the Taiwan Council. We did not believe anyone would come, especially not humans. Jin could hear the shock in the alien's voice. We honor our promises, Council Leader June. Where are your remaining forces gathered? Northern continent. Underground facility at these coordinates. It's our last stronghold. The tactical display updated with the location. A remote area currently under heavy attack by Auric ground forces. Hold position. We're sending down Marines to secure your location. As Jin issued deployment orders, the Auric finally responded to the human presence. 3 large warships broke from their bombardment pattern and turned toward the Earth fleet. Incoming. Transmission from the Auric command ship, announced the communications officer. The main screen flickered to life, revealing a gray-skinned alien with ritual scars across his face. His voice translated through the ship's systems with a metallic edge. Unidentified vessels. This system is claimed by the Auric Empire. Depart immediately or be destroyed. Jin stepped forward. This is Commander Jin of Earth. We are here at the request of the Taiwan government under our mutual defense treaty. Cease your attack on this planet immediately. The Auric commander's eyes narrowed. Earth, we have no record of your species having viable interstellar capabilities. Your vessels appear primitive. Then this should be interesting, Jin replied, before cutting the transmission. He turned to his officers. Launch dropships. Get our people on the ground now. 20 minutes later, Master Sergeant Han led the first squad of human Marines through the broken entrance of the Taiwan facility. The aliens looked up in shock as the humans secured the perimeter, their powered combat armor and energy shields unlike anything the Taiwans had seen before. Hana watched the soldiers with a mixture of hope and disbelief. They were so different. From the records, more confident, more capable, with technology that seemed to have evolved at an impossible rate. You actually came, she said, approaching the lead soldier. Sergeant Han removed her helmet, revealing a determined face with a scar across her cheek. Of course we came, that's what allies do. Before Hana could respond, the ground shook violently. Outside, Auric landing craft were touching down. They're starting their final assault, Council Leader June said, his voice trembling. They must have decided to eliminate us quickly now that you've arrived. Sergeant Han replaced her helmet and checked her weapon. How many entrances to this facility? 3 main entrances, plus several emergency exits, Hana answered. Perfect. Han turned to her squad. We hold those entrances. No Auric gets through. The Taiwans watched in amazement as the human soldiers moved with practiced efficiency, setting up defensive positions and distributing equipment. More Marines were arriving every minute from the dropships above. The first Auric assault came just minutes later, a wave of armored soldiers charging the north entrance. They expected to face frightened Taiwan scientists. Instead, they met concentrated fire from human plasma rifles. From her position near the command center, Hana could hear the battle outside. The sounds were terrifying, but the humans seemed unfazed. Your people don't even know us, she said to Sergeant Han during a brief lull. Why risk your lives? Han checked the power level on her rifle. Humanity spent centuries fighting each other before we reached the stars. We learned the hard way what happens when good people do nothing. A massive explosion shook the facility as the Auric deployed heavy weapons. Stay behind me, Han said, moving toward the sound. And watch carefully. Today we teach the Auric that humanity has arrived in this galaxy. Above the planet, the space battle had begun in earnest, as Earth vessels proved that primitive did not mean weak. The Auric general paced the command deck of his flagship, his clawed hands clenched behind his back. 3 days of fighting, and still the humans held their ground. It made no sense. "They are technologically inferior," he growled to his second-in-command. "Their ships should have been destroyed within hours." "They fight differently," the officer replied cautiously. "When we disable their ships, they reroute systems in ways our tactical computers don't predict. When we overwhelm their ground forces, they fall back only to strike from unexpected directions." On the main screen, another Auric assault craft exploded. As it approached the Taiwan facility, the general slammed his fist on the console. "Send in the elite guard, all of them." Down on the planet's surface, Minho crouched behind a fallen column, his combat armor scorched from repeated energy blasts. Beside him, a Taiwan named Su worked frantically on a small device. "Are you sure this will work?" Minho asked, firing, his rifle to keep the advancing Auric forces at bay. "In theory," Su replied. "Your weapons use magnetic acceleration. If I can integrate our energy modulators, the power output should triple." Minho had never expected to be fighting alongside aliens who, just days ago, he had only read about in history books. Even more surprising was how quickly the Taiwans had adapted to warfare. Though peaceful by nature, they learned combat tactics with remarkable speed. "Incoming!" shouted another Marine from across the battlefield. Minho looked up to see massive Auric drop pods crashing through what remained of the facility's ceiling. The pods split open, revealing soldiers twice the size of the regular Auric troops, wearing heavy armor that shimmered with energy shields. "The elite guard," Su whispered, fear evident in his voice. "No one has ever defeated them in ground combat." Minho checked his ammunition. "Well, they've never fought humans before." Commander Jin's voice crackled over the comm system. "All units, fall back to secondary positions. New tactics uploading to your HUDs now." As the human forces executed a coordinated retreat, the Taiwans followed with growing confidence. Over the past 3 days, they had begun to understand human warfare, not just the technology but the mindset behind it. In the makeshift command center, Hana worked alongside Commander Jin, analyzing Auric communications they had intercepted. Her understanding of Auric language patterns had proven invaluable. "They're confused," she said, looking up from her console. "Their commander doesn't understand why you keep fighting when victory seems impossible." Jin smiled grimly. "That's their weakness. They expect rational surrender when faced with superior force. They don't understand human stubbornness." Hana had seen that stubbornness firsthand. When energy weapons depleted, humans fought with projectile weapons. When those ran out, they used whatever they could find. They never simply accepted defeat. "They're moving the flagship into low orbit," reported a communications officer. "They're getting desperate." Jin nodded. "Perfect. Signal Admiral Park. Operation Spearhead is go." Above the planet, the remaining Earth vessels suddenly broke from their defensive positions and formed a spear-like formation. They accelerated directly toward the Auric flagship, a suicide run by all appearances. The Auric general watched with disdain. "They've gone mad. Prepare to destroy them." But as the Auric weapons targeted the approaching ships, something unexpected happened. The human vessels released hundreds of small objects, too small for weapons, too erratic for missiles. "What are they?" demanded the general. His question was answered moments later as the objects attached themselves to the Auric ships' hulls. They were boarding pods, each containing a squad of human marines. On the ground, Minho watched his HUD as Su connected the final component to his rifle. The weapon hummed with new power. "Now!" shouted Commander Jin over the comms. "All units, advance!" Across the battlefield, human weapons enhanced with Taiwan technology blazed to life. The elite Auric Guard, for the first time in their long history of conquest, began to fall back. "They're retreating," Su said in disbelief as he watched the fearsome warriors withdraw. Minho rose from cover, his modified rifle cutting through Auric shields like they weren't there. "No, this isn't a retreat. This is just the beginning." In space, human marines breached the Auric flagship's command deck. On the ground, combined human Taiwan forces pushed forward. The impossible was happening. The invincible Auric were losing. The turning point had arrived, and with it, the first whispers of a new legend spreading through the stars. Never underestimate humanity. The sun rose over the Taiwan capital for the first time without the shadow of Auric warships blocking its light. Rubble still filled the streets, and many buildings remained in ruins, but something had changed. There was movement everywhere, Taiwans and humans working side by side to clear debris and rebuild. Hana stood on a hilltop overlooking the reconstruction efforts. Just 2 weeks ago, she had believed her world and her people were facing extinction. Now hope grew stronger with each passing day. "Quite a view," said a voice behind her. Commander Jin approached, his uniform dusty from the morning's work. He no longer wore combat armor, though the sidearm at his hip showed he remained cautious. "I never thought I would see this again," Hana admitted. Taiwan's building rather than hiding. In the distance, a human transport ship landed at the newly established spaceport. More supplies and personnel arriving from Earth. The Auric retreat had been so sudden and complete that many still couldn't believe it. The mighty empire that had conquered a dozen worlds had been driven back by a species they had never even considered. A threat. "The last of the Auric fleet was tracked leaving this sector of space yesterday," Jin said. "Our long-range patrols report they're regrouping near their home systems." "Will they return?" Hana asked, voicing the fear that kept many Taiwans awake at night. Jin looked thoughtful. "Eventually. Empires like theirs don't accept defeat easily, but next time you won't face them alone." Below them, Minho was teaching a group of young Taiwans how to operate Earth communication equipment. Nearby, Su led a team of engineers who were combining Taiwan energy technology with human designs to create improved defense systems. "Your people learn quickly," Jin observed. "We always valued knowledge," Hana replied. "We just never understood the importance of knowing how to fight. We thought our technology would always protect us," Jin nodded. "And we humans needed to learn that sometimes the strongest alliance comes from the most unexpected places." A small shuttle approached the hilltop and landed on a nearby pad. Admiral Park stepped out, accompanied by Council Leader June. They had been meeting daily to formalize the new alliance between their peoples. "Commander," the Admiral called out, "the treaty is signed. Earth has officially extended protection to Taiwan space." June looked different now, still bearing the weight of all they had lost, but standing taller, with new resolve in his eyes. "And Taiwan has pledged our scientific knowledge to humanity. Together, we will be stronger than either of us could be alone." As the four of them looked out over the rebuilding city, another shuttle arrived. This one carried representatives from a world called Kellar, one of the planets previously conquered by the Auric. News of the Auric defeat had spread quickly. "They wish to discuss alliance terms as well," Admiral Park explained. "It seems many worlds have lived under Auric rule, waiting for a chance at freedom." Jin wasn't surprised. "This is just the beginning. The galaxy is changing." That evening, as stars appeared above the Taiwan capital, humans and Taiwans gathered in what remained of the central plaza. Tables had been set up with food from both worlds. Children who had been hiding in bunkers just weeks ago now ran between the tables, fascinated by the humans and their strange ways. Minho sat with Su and several other Taiwan engineers, drawing diagrams on scraps of paper as they planned. New defensive systems. Despite the language differences, they had developed their own way of communicating, a mixture of technical terms, gestures, and newfound friendship. "To think we once considered humans too primitive to be worthwhile allies," Su said, shaking his head. "We were so wrong, and we thought we were alone in the universe," Minho replied. "Turns out the galaxy is full of both friends and enemies." Across the plaza, Hana found herself standing next to Commander Jin as they watched their peoples begin to truly connect. "What happens now?" she asked quietly. Jin looked up at the stars. No longer just distant lights, but worlds to be explored, protected and allied with. "Now," he said, "we build something new together, something neither of our worlds could have imagined before." The Auric thought they were unstoppable because no one had ever successfully challenged them. But they never encountered human determination combined with Taiwan ingenuity. Hana smiled. The day human soldiers landed, everything changed. "Yes," Jin agreed, "for all of us. And I think, for the entire galaxy." Above them, more Earth ships entered orbit, bringing not just soldiers and supplies now, but diplomats, teachers, and settlers. A new chapter was beginning, not just for two worlds, but for all worlds that longed for freedom among the stars.